بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. Verily all praise is due to Allah who guided us to this Islam. Truly if Allah He didn't guide us to this Islam, we would not be from amongst those that have been guided. The scent of the night tonight is Oud Kambudi, and I'm going to enhance it with Oud Kamboni, the original right here. This way, mashallah tabarakallah, we're smelling really nice, really powerful. Unfortunately, most of the people, they don't like this strong scent, but you got to smell musky sometimes. So inshallah ta'ala, we're going to talk bi'nillahi ta'ala concerning the topic of today. Our topic today bi'nillahi ta'ala is the long-awaited topic called at-tazkiyat an-nafs. At-tazkiyat an-nafs, or tazkiyat an-nufus. It is the purification of the soul, or the purification of the souls. So before we get into the information that we came here to present today, bi'nillahi ta'ala, I want to go back. I want to go way back. 1983. Summer of 1983. Me and my family, we were just getting ready to move to Windsor from Brampton. And at that time, there was a hip-hop song. For those online, they could check it out. There was a hip-hop song called An-Nafsi, the soul, by the hip-hop star called Hisham, 1983. So this is the first word that I found out back in those days. Arabic word on a hip-hop record. An-Nafsi, the soul, by Hisham, which is a very, very big song back in those days, 1983. You can look, that's the label of the song right there. So at that time I was like, what is this, man? This is not English. And I found out later on that it was Arabic. So this is the first time that I ever heard about the nafs. It was back in 1983. I wasn't Muslim at that time, but at that time, that stuck in my head because it was something very, very unique. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to talk about the knowledge of self. As also in the hip-hop culture, especially what they call the 5% nation, and they're not authentic Orthodox Muslims, but from them we got one of the best people that came out, and one of their teachers, who we're going to talk about, Malcolm X, rahmatullah alayhi, he had a student called Clarence 13X, who's not Muslim, as long as we know that. But they came up with the information of knowledge of self. Knowledge of self. And knowledge of self, ya ikhwan, it is something that the old school hip hop, many of those people that were promoting that stuff back in those days, as well as some of the new style hip hop, those that are conscious, they talk about the knowledge of self. Knowledge of self, to better myself. So we find that the Immortal Technique, one of the famous rappers, he said that true wealth is having your health and your knowledge of self. The RZA, who's also very famous, he was the lead orchestra of the Wu-Tang Clan. He said the knowledge of self is the most important thing, because how are you going to know God if you don't know yourself? How are you going to know anything if you don't know yourself? So even Muhammad Ali, rahmatullah alayhi, he said, my wealth is my knowledge of self. My knowledge of self-love and spirituality. So this thing, brothers and sisters, for some people, the knowledge of self, psychology, self-knowledge is term used in psychology to describe the information that an individual draws upon when finding an answer to a question like, what am I? What am I like? While seeking to develop the answer to the question, self-knowledge requires ongoing self-awareness and self-consciousness. Knowledge of self. The main entry focused on knowledge of one's mental status. Yet self-knowledge can also be used to refer to knowledge of self and its nature. Issues about knowledge and self include, how is it that one distinguishes oneself from others as an object of self-attribution, whether self-awareness yields a grasp of material or non-material nature of self, whether self-awareness yields a grasp of one's personal identity over time, or sort of self-understanding is required for rational or free agency. These issues are closely connected with referential semantics, the mind-body problem, metaphysics of personal identity, moral psychology, respectively. This section briefly sketches some prominent views about the knowledge of self arising from debates in these areas. What has this got to do with us? Very good question. 1991, Abu Shahadi became a Muslim. I had a book at that time. I had it. I gave it to another brother. This book I've had since 1991. This little book right here. 1991, I've kept these books as I used to doodle. I used to work security, and I used to work a job at the gas station. And while I was there, if I was able to I used to borrow books from other brothers as well. And I copied in that book from then to now. Inshallah ta'ala, it's still here. These are the papers here that I wrote down. Okay? And in this paper here, lo and behold, an-nafsul amara, sensual pleasure, passion, impulsive gratification, anger, envy, greed, conceit. Its concerns are preservation of the body, jism, gratification of physical appetites, bahmiya, the ego, enhancement, behaviors exclusive to the nafs al-amara are not expressions of the higher lordly spiritual rabbaniya in a man. Imagine, I wrote this in 1991. An-nafs al-lawama, the nafs. Al-lawama's essential function is to warn a person's suggestion of the waswas, of the Satan, to reproach the person for not heeding the warnings. The nafs al-lawama does not subjugate the self with overbearing restrictions. Instead, it keeps the person on guard against the domination by lower desires, shahwa, which if not disciplined, strive self-development. When heeded by the person, the nafs al-lawama opens the doors towards attraction to virtue and righteousness. This is from 1991. I wrote this in the book. An-nafs al-muhimma is inspired to become righteous and pious, taqwa, to see the truth and to resolve to please Allah as much as possible. Having matured beyond obedience to Allah, mainly to avoid punishment. The self seeks good for its own value, aspiring to be transformed into a truly humble servant of Allah. The nafs al-muhimma realizes the true light is a guidance of Allah. The nafs al-muhimma feels accountable and responsible towards itself and seeks God's guidance. Next one. An-nafs al-qana'a is the self-content, self-satisfied with what it has and not given to looking after the material possessions. This so-called good thing in life. This nafs is aware that dissatisfaction with any provision graved by Allah includes the personal ungratefulness and the immaturity. This nafs knows not that one can acquire any good unless it is by the will of Allah. The next one. An-nafs mutma'inna. It is content, peaceful, and satisfied. It has acquired the qualities of calmness and quiet. It does not harbor desires or recognition from society, nor is it out of being responsible. The nafs also, al-mutma'inna, is content and settled in knowledge that it is returning to Allah. The content, peaceful self finds satisfaction in love for Allah and glory alone. The nafs al-radiyya is pleasing to Allah and accepted by Him. These are additional characteristics of the restful, contented soul. The nafs is happily that Allah is pleased with it. So you can imagine, I wrote this down almost 29 plus years ago. The last one, an-nafs al-kamila, is perfected, complete self. Its purification is the moral perfection, purified of all cardinal desires, shahwa, resulting in pure consciousness of Allah. Self-veiling from pure light gives way to divine consciousness. The soul is finally consumed in the nur, wahdaniyya, the light of the oneness of Tawheed. 1991, I wrote this in this book. I came across it the other day. And also 1983, the first time that I heard the word nafs. So now let us begin our topic, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We're going to deal with one of the sections from this book. And this is one of the most beautiful books that I've read. This book is called Purification of the Soul. It is called Ashratul Qawaid fi Tazkiyat al-Nafs, 10 Principles Concerning the Purification of the Soul, by Sheikh Abdul Razak Al-Badr Abdul Muhsin Al-Abad, Hafidhahullah Ta'ala. We've been quoting from some of the other books that he wrote. He wrote the other book that we were dealing with the other day. We were dealing with one of the books on dua, and now we're dealing with the 10th principle in this book called knowing the self. Knowing the self. So what we're basically going to do, inshallah ta'ala, is read this chapter, And I'll try to add a few points inshallah so we can get the benefit. As this science is something which is mentioned in the Quran 1400 plus years ago. This has already been mentioned. So long before all these hip-hop stars and basketball people and movie stars started to mention it, Allah Ta'ala had given us information concerning the knowledge of the soul. Ya akhwan. So the Shaykh, he goes on to say, from that which is accompanied in the affair of purification of the soul is knowing the reality of the soul and knowing its characteristics, the khasa'is, so that it is easy to tend to it, to care for it, and to treat it from the sicknesses that is afflicted with it. The Shaykh, he goes on to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the soul within his noble book Al-Quran Al-Kareem with the three well-known characteristics. These three descriptions are respective of the conditions of the soul, ya ikhwan. And this is for heart therapy, soul therapy, ya ikhwan, which is on the higher level that we need to aspire to. The Shaykh, he brings the first one, An-Nafs al-Mutma'inna, what is the content soul, ya ikhwan. This is the soul that is content with Iman and the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala and worshipping Him and being devout to Him in the most excellent manner. As Allah Ta'ala, He says, and again I will say before that, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa qala Allah Ta'ala, Alladhina amanu wa tatma'inu qulubahum bi dhikrillah, ala bi dhikrillah tatma'inu qulub. Allah Ta'ala goes on to say, those who believe and those whose hearts they find rest in the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala, verily in the remembrance of Allah do the hearts they find rest. Ya ikhwan. So this is the nafs that is content. Also, the Shaykh, he brought the ayah, قال الله تعالى يا أيتها النفس مطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. Allah Ta'ala goes on to say, it will be said to the pious, it will be said to the pious, O content soul, come back to your Lord, come back to your Lord, well pleased with yourself and well pleasing to Him, Allah. Enter you then among my honored slaves and enter you into my paradise. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, if this was all that we needed today, the one ayah, to know that we need to work on our soul as well as our heart, as well as our iman, as well as our taqwa, as well as our consciousness of Allah, then that's enough. But the Shaykh, he brought the next one, which is the nafs al-lawama, which is the self-reproaching soul. The self-reproaching soul. This is the one which criticizes the person for his errant actions, his errant ways, going off the path, or for failing short, or for falling short in the obligations, or being negligent in a state of ghafla in the actions of obedience, ya ikhwan. There comes some times that, well, mashallah, our iman is high, we're practicing the deen, we're doing good, alhamdulillah, but then we fall off, something pulls us off, some situation in life, it kind of snags us and we kind of come off the path for a while. And one of my sheikhs, he used to always say, this is a side point, he used to say that you have to be careful of the friends that you're around, and he used to say all the time, at-tariq, 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 qabl al-rafiq, at-tariq, 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 qabl al-rafiq, the path before your friend. The path before your friend. Because sometimes your friends will try to pull you off the path, or they'll be led astray off the path and you may follow them. So it is important for us, ya ikhwan, to know that we have this self-reproaching soul, this nafs al-lawama. This is one which criticizes ourselves, the person for his errant ways, for going off the path, or for falling short in the obligations, or being negligent, ghafla, to be amongst those people that are negligent. So the Shaykh, he quotes the ayah, وَقَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى, and this is in Surah Al-Qiyamah, وَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ اللَّوَّامَةِ, and I swear by the self-reproaching person, believer, I swear by the self-reproaching soul, an-nafs, ya ikhwan, an-nafs al-lawama, it is the thing that tells us, man, you got to get back in line. Then the Shaykh, he started talking, I think, to me. personally, because I think this is where I fall. An-nafsa amara bisuh, the soul which commands with evil. Now this morning, early in the morning, ya ikhwan, and it's just something that because of the environments that I grew up with, this is my only excuse. I grew up around 7 DJs, and the amount of music that I heard when I was young, every now and then, a'udhu billah, I get what they call an earworm. I hear a song, nothing's playing, but I hear a song from my past. I hear a beat, I hear a song. When I wake up, a'udhu billah, a'udhu billahi shaitanir rajim, I hear songs in my head from back in the day. This is part of the nafs amara bisuh, the soul which commands with evil. And I keep hearing these songs in my head over and over and over again because we used to play this music so much that I'm still trying to get it out of my system. Even when I go amongst my non-Muslim family members, they play this music or I hear these songs. Sometimes I'm in the mall or I'm traveling or somebody pulls beside me and a song comes on and automatically it just comes in my head. And that song may take some time to leave. So this is something we have to fight off, ya ikhwan. An-nafsa amara bisuh, the soul which commands with evil. It is that which encourages the person to do the prohibited acts and to commit sins. And it drives him to places of evil and areas of lewdness. It pushes him to commit atrocities and despicable acts, ya ikhwan. وقال الله تعالى, and I memorized this a long time ago, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي إِنَّ النَّفْسُ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِسُوءِ إِلَى مَرَاهِمَ رَبِّي إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And I free not myself from blame. Verily the soul, it drives towards evil, except when my Lord bestows His mercy upon me, or upon him. This is in Surah Yusuf. So these 3 descriptions, ya ikhwan, are very important for us to understand. We're talking about the nafs, ya ikhwan, knowing the self, knowledge of self. The Shaykh, he goes on to say that these 3 descriptions for the soul, in reality, the states connected to the soul. Due to this, these states alternate and they change. So, I remember one time in science, and we were discussing some different issues. You have water, then you have ice, then you have also steam. Look at the different states of water. So these 3 different descriptions of the soul, in reality, the states connected to the soul, due to this, these states alternate and change in accordance with things that come to contact with the soul. So the reason that I mentioned that, ice, water, steam, this is taqarrub al-ma'na, to bring into your mind that water can go through different changes, ya ikhwan. So the Shaykh, he goes on to say that perhaps all of these 3 descriptions existed with a person in one day in accordance with the condition of the soul. So you could be at one level, then drop to another level, then drop to another level, or be at the bottom level, ascend to a higher level, and ascend to a higher level. That's what the Shaykh is saying. The people of knowledge have given examples for the soul, which clarifies its condition with the person in order to make it easy to fathom for the Muslims so that they may strive thereafter to rectify and to purify. To rectify and to purify. To rectify and to purify. The Shaykh goes on to say, I will suffice here with 2 examples. And these examples, I read them earlier. They're beautiful, but it's going to take us some time to read it. But inshallah ta'ala, for those that are patient, you're going to get a beautiful lesson from the Shaykh. So the Shaykh, he brought the first example. I actually like the second example better than the first, but the first one is good too. The Shaykh, he brought the example, and this is mentioned by the illustrious Imam. Many of the people, they don't know this Imam. This Imam, his name is Imam al-Arjurri, rahmatullah alayhi. And he wrote a very, very famous book called Ash-Sharia, which is a book on the Aqidah of the Muslims. And he wrote it a long time ago. He also wrote this book called Al-Adab al-Nufus, the etiquettes of the souls. He went on to say, I will mention an example for you, the affair of which is not hidden from you, if Allah wills. Know that the example of the soul is like that of a beautiful horse or beautiful colt, a young male strong horse, a young stallion. One who looks at it is impressed by the power of the steed, how beautiful it looks, the power, the splendor, the beauty. The Shaykh goes on to say that people who have insight, farasa, they realize that this young horse is not trained yet. It's not trained yet. It doesn't have a goodly etiquette and manner amongst it. It's not disciplined. The Shaykh goes on to say, then it can be benefited from, used by the pursuit of the flight. Meaning that somebody wants to ride that beautiful, gallant stallion, and the rider will appreciate its discipline later on and the training. However, if it is not disciplined, its beauty and splendor, turn on the light, brother. Someone turn off the lights. However, its beauty and its splendor and its discipline will be of no benefit if the rider is not praises its results when it's needed. So you can have a beautiful looking steed, or even, for instance, imagine if you bought a brand new car, or if you bought, for instance, hockey skates. This is probably the best example I can say. It's different than basketball. Most of the basketball players, when they're playing basketball, they just jump into their new basketball shoes and they'll put up 30, 40, 50 points. It's not like that with hockey. With hockey, you have to break in the mold of the skate. And when I was playing hockey back in the days, we didn't have these new baked ovens that you can put your hockey skate in with your mold, and it fashions your skate. So things have to be broken in. So the same with the soul, same with the horse, the Shaykh is saying. So if the owner of this horse, this colt, accepts the advice of the people of advice and insight, he will know that this is the correct statement, and he will take it to the trainer so that it can be trained. Remember yesterday we were talking about the situation of the murabbi, the Shaykh who helps to cultivate the people. This is important. Moreover, the trainer should only be the one who is knowledgeable and proficient in training, and he has to have patience in that which he has knowledge of the training. If he has this along with the training and his sincere work, the person will benefit from the steed trained by such a person. So if you want to have a championship horse, for those that follow horse racing or they know about horse racing in Arabia, it has to have a trainer so it can reach its ultimate goal. You can't just have a beautiful wild horse and try to jump on it and ride it. So the Shaykh goes on to say that if the trainer does not understand how to train a horse and does not know how to discipline the horses, he will corrupt this colt, this horse, and wear himself out, and the rider will not be pleased with the result. So the trainer has to know what he's doing. The Shaykh goes on to say, if the trainer has understanding of the training and the disciplining of the horses, however, despite his understanding of this, he is not patient with the difficulty of the training. He wants things to be easy for himself, and he is negligent regarding that which is binding upon him. From the sincerity in the training, he will corrupt this colt and be mean to it. Thus, it will not be suitable for the pursuit of flight for riding. So he will have a good look, but with no substance. So the horse will look good, it'll look strong and powerful. But now if you get on it, that horse is going to buck you off. It's going to knock you off. It might try to stamp on you. It might, they goes, it makes those sounds. It might try to stamp on you. It might try to kick you. It might try to buck you off. And then, we've seen when the horse, it kicks back its back legs, you can get killed by one of those blows if the horse isn't trained properly. So the Shaykh goes on to say, if the owner is a trainer himself, he will regret his relaxation on the day by which regret will be of no benefit. He will look at something who is in pursuit of something and catches that while he is pursuing it. And when it's time for them to take the flight, meaning to ride the horse, they will swiftly do so with safety. Yet, he will pursue something and not catch that which is the pursuit, and will take flight for something, but he will not be safe. All of this is due to the laxity and the lack of patience, despite his understanding of the affair. So let me just try to bring it up into 2021 understanding. Basically, you can't take no days off of working with your soul, brothers and sisters. The guy who works with the horse, he can't take a weekend off and not work with the horse, a couple days off, not let the horse work, not bring out the horse. Every single day, you got to work on yourself, brothers and sisters. There's no days off with this. You want to have one of those higher aspiring souls that is closer to Allah, you have to work hard working on the soul. The Shaykh goes on to say, then he will blame and censor himself, saying, why were you negligent? Why did you take some days off working with the horse? The horse was making some progress, but then you took 3 days off. Now the horse is back to square one. The horse is back to where it was, not the square one around the corner, meaning that the square one where you first started. So the Shaykh, he goes on to say, he will blame himself and censor himself, saying, why were you negligent? Why did you fall short? Due to my scanty amount of patience, everything which I dislike has come to me, and Allah's aid is sought. Allah musta'an. So imagine you made a little bit of progress, but then you took a couple of days off. Now whatever you built, all of a sudden, ya ikhwan, from that horse you got to go back to square one and start over again. So the Shaykh said, be intelligent. Be intelligent. May Allah have mercy upon you. And know that this example, and understand it, you will be successful and you'll be safe. This is the first example that Imam al-Ujurri clarifies the condition of the soul, and that it is like a colt or a young horse, which is in need of training and patience in doing so, and that one must be knowledgeable regarding the affairs that will rectify and purify, the soul. And that if this person is negligent regarding the knowledge of this training, he will have the utmost regrets at the end of the journey. This is part one of the stories, inshallah ta'ala, that we're going to relate from the Shaykh. And the book we're taking from is the 10 principles concerning the purification of the soul. And I skip right to part number 10. The second example, and I knew that I had to come across this because I have not found any books that I believe that calls to my soul more than the books of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi. The second example that the Shaykh he brought is the example, this was mentioned by Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah when he went on to say that the soul is like a large, difficult mountain upon the path that leads to Allah. Pay attention, brothers, this is so important. This ibra, this amthila, this example, this parable is so beautiful. When I read it, I was just astonished of the thinking of the Shaykh. The soul is like a large, difficult mountain upon the path that leads to Allah. For every traveler, there is no path except by way of passing that mountain or getting by that mountain. So he must come to it. However, from them there are two struggles upon it. From them there is he for whom it is easy, and it is easy for the one who Allah makes it easy for. Within the mountain there are valleys and there are trails, mountain trails, passes in the valleys, passes in the ravines. But there's also prickles and thorns, entwining bushes and shrubs, things that will snag you, pull you, cut you, stop you, impede you. The Shaykh he also wanted to say that there's also qata'a tariq adu bi'asaba. There are highway robbers. There are robbers who block the paths for those who transverse upon it, especially those who do it at night, meaning that you're trying to get to that mountain in the nighttime. It's even harder, traveling at nightfall. If they do not have the readiness of iman and the lanterns of certainty, yaqeen, which burn by the way of the oil of humility, tawadhi. Indeed, if they lack these things, these afat, these hindrances will take hold of them, and the impediments will obstruct them and stand between them on their long journey. And as you know, brothers and sisters, we need zad and ma'ad, we need provisions for this journey, trying to go back to Allah. As we all know, when someone dies, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, we must go back to Allah Azza wa Jal. From Allah we come, to Him we must return. So we need provisions on this journey, as Ibn Qayyim he said in his very beautiful book Zad al-Mu'ad, provisions for the hereafter, brothers. So the Shaykh Ibn Qayyim, he also wrote that beautiful book I mentioned the other day, Madaraj al-Salikin, the degrees of those who traverse the paths. We find, ya ikhwan, that it is very important to know this message that these ulama, these heart and soul doctors, they've given us information. If we pay attention and try hard to understand this, then there's a great lesson for us to learn. The Shaykh, he goes on to say that most of the travelers who travel through this mountain are not able to overcome and defy the obstacles of the shaitan, because shaitan is at the top of the mountain, meaning at the highest point. warning the people against climbing and elevating upon it. He's telling you, no, don't come up here. You don't want to come up here. It's not a good place. And on the other side, ya ikhwan, is beautiful things. He's there to try to impede you and to block you and to destroy your way and to stop you from getting to quote unquote what they call the promised land. The Shaykh, he goes on to say, warning the people against climbing and elevating upon it, frightening them from doing so. So the Shaykh goes on to say, the difficulty of the climb is combined with the sitting of his frightener at the highest point, along with the weaknesses of resolve and the intention of the traveler, which results in cessation of travel. So as you're getting there, you know that you got to go on this long journey with lots of roads, and there's all these impediments on the roads, and there's different paths, and there's things trying to pull you up. But you know when you get to the top, you got to go through the shaitan. You got to pass him. You got to get to the other side. So he's there waiting for us. We all know that shaitan is there. But all he can do is whisper, brothers and sisters. So the Shaykh, he goes on to say, and return upon giving up on the journey. The Shaykh goes on to say, the safe one is he whom Allah, he makes safe. So we have to ask Allah, oh Allah, help me on this journey back to you. Make me thabit. Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Oh Allah, oh the changer of the hearts, make my heart firm upon this deen. The Shaykh goes on to say, every time the traveler climbs the mountain, the cry of the hinderer, his warning, and the attempt to frighten it intensifies. The Shaykh goes, oh, it's too hard to fast every Monday and Thursday. Oh, it's too hard to pray tahajjud. Oh, it's too hard to give sadaqah. Oh, it's too hard to do some good deeds. Oh, it's too hard to travel to go see your sick mother. He's going to tell you all these negative waswas. He's going to get in your head, and he's going to start telling you all types of evil things to stop you from doing the good deeds. The Shaykh goes on to say, if the person climbs the mountain and he reaches the top, all those things which frighten him are turned into safety. And at that point of the journey, it becomes easy. The impediments in the path, the athat ala tariq, the impediments of the path and the difficulty of the mountain pass, they are removed. And he sees the path to be wide and safe. By the way of this mountain, he is taken to the dwellings of beautiful oases and springs and beautiful dwellings. And upon it are the signposts and there are abodes that have been prepared for the honored guests of Ar-Rahman. The Shaykh, mashallah, Allahu Akbar, the Shaykh goes on to say, between the servant and happiness and success is the strength and the resolve, a time of patience, a time of courageousness of the soul and the firmness of the heart, and the bounty is in the hand of Allah. He gives it to whomever He wills, and Allah is the owner of the tremendous bounty. This example also makes clear to us that the state of the soul and that it requires from the person attention, treatment, and healing. Attention, treatment, and healing. If one does not struggle against in this legislated method and be patient with this, then it will escape him and be lost. So here's my points, brothers. The path, it is very long. It's called the Sirat al-Mustaqim. But we've learned through studying with our scholars that the Sirat al-Mustaqim is a bridge in this dunya that extends to the bridge in the hereafter, which we have to pass to get into the Jannah. And many people, if they get past this path and they get to the next path, the Sirats, then brothers, there's going to be things there that can pull you down, which will be your bad deeds and your bad sins can pull you. And the Prophet ﷺ said, some people will go by really fast, some people with blink of an eye, some like lightning, some like a fast steed, he said in one narration. And then he said some people will come crawling, some people will have a hard time, some people will fall off, some people will be pulled off. And then when you get to the other side, it's not over yet. You don't just get a chance to go into the pearly gates. There's something called the qantara, which is a plane before you go into the gates of the Jannah, where you're going to have to settle up. You lied on somebody, you stole from somebody, you backbit somebody, you did somebody wrong. You have to settle up these things before you get a chance, ya ikhwan. So the journey, it is a long journey. You're going to have to be patient on this journey. You're going to have every type of equipment that you need to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jalla on this journey. And that's why, brothers and sisters, Books have been written for us where the scholars have made what is called istiqra' wa istinbat' wa tatabbu' extraction. They deduce things from the book and the sunnah, and they made things what they call taqrib al-ma'na, things easy for us to understand. So why did Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah write the book called Zad al-Ma'ad? Why did he write these books showing the provisions that we need to go on the journey? And here's the fascinating thing that people, they don't know. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, while he was writing that book Zad al-Ma'ad, he was sitting on a donkey writing Zad al-Ma'ad. He wrote it on the donkey while he was traveling from one land to another. So you can imagine going through the crevices of the mountains and the valley passes. So he's seeing all of this, and he's not only talking about it in his books, he lived it, ya ikhwan. Who do we know right now that can sit on a donkey and travel from one land and write a book? 4 volumes in English, and I think I have it in 2 volumes in Arabic. An astonishing book. Provisions for the hereafter. Zad al-Mu'ad. I think it's Khair al-Ibad, I can't remember it exactly. Zad al-Mu'ad, provisions for the best of the servants, or for those servants. So brothers, these books are written for us so we can get close to Allah Azza wa Jal, and we can take these ibarah and these amthila, and we can try to understand that it is a far journey. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And many people, they don't know the difference between the sprinter and the marathon runner. I myself, in the young days, I was a sprinter. That means I can go really fast, and I had lots of muscle and lots of fast speed. I can go from one point to another really fast. And there is, mashallah, people, they watch when the Olympics comes on, they want to see who wins the 100 and the 200 yard meet because of the speed, and we admire the speed. And not that many people that watch the marathon runners, except for those who really understand. People that can run 2K, 5K, 10K, 15K, 20K, 30K, 50K, whatever. These people, they're built differently. They're built for durability for a long run. They don't have a lot of strong muscle. They have long lingy muscles. And they have to keep eating food on their journey. Drink a little bit of water, eat a granola bar or a power bar, and then keep running. The sprinter, he's different. He's got to eat things like bananas and stuff like that, because he doesn't want his muscles to tweak while he's running. So even the eating and the format and the training is totally different, ya ikhwan. So for us, we are in a marathon, ya ikhwan. We're in a marathon. Ramadan right now, it is a marathon. It's very grueling. For us, we are blessed to live in North America. Right now, it's freezing cold outside. I'm wearing a sweater. Some of the brothers, I was talking to them the other day, they're in Mombasa, Kenya. Some brothers I know from Ohio. They are sweating throughout the day. And when they drink the water, they are so happy because not only are they fasting, but the heat is almost killing them. They're dehydrating. I don't know anybody right now who's dehydrating right now here in Canada. We're freezing. So the marathon, for us to get close to Allah Azza wa Jalla, ya ikhwan, it started for many of us when we were born. For me, it started for me, ya ikhwan, when I took my shahada. And I know that this is a grueling message. Many of my family members, they said to me, and they said to each other, this is just a fad for him. Don't worry. Just like he was into Kung Fu a couple of years ago, it'll leave him. Just like he was into basketball a few years ago, it'll leave him. Just like he was into music a few years ago, this music or that music, it'll leave him. So 30 years now, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, we're still trying to stay on the path. It's a marathon, ya ikhwan. And as we know, and it's said almost in every Jummah khutbah, وَلَا تُمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ, and do not die except for in the state of Islam. So if we're going to die in the state of Islam, we've been warned about that. The question is, are we living Islam daily? Because we never know that we can die. Today, I watched a video, one brother sent it to me, about a famous Muslim boxer who he worked really hard to become the champ of the world. And at one time he was hanging out with some of the main hip-hop stars, and he ended up losing his belt, and then his wife passed away, rahimahullah. And then he said that he had this void in his life. This void is because he wasn't really practicing Islam the way his parents raised him up to be. And he was saying that there was a time that the belt that I had, the champion belt, I thought when I would win the champion belt, it would give me happiness. He said, no, it did not. And he was invited to so many different parties to hang out with all these great rap stars and basketball stars. But after he lost his other belt, he lost the championship, and then his wife died, it kind of clicked onto him that he was missing the salat. And then he started coming back close to Allah. And then recently he just said that his dua is, "Oh Allah, take my soul when you're pleased with me," as we mentioned in that ayah. Take my soul, Allah, when you're pleased with me. Because brothers, if Allah takes our soul when He's not pleased with us, ya akhwan, nightmares. Nightmares in the next life. But the problem is many of us, we're living daymares. Daily we're sinning, doing horrible, corrupted things. I remember 4 years ago, before this COVID, late in the night, some brothers, they told me, come by an area where there's lots of Muslims, just so I could see with my own eyes. And I went there, and it was a shisha bar with Arabic on it. And it said, Shisha-licious, here in Mississauga. And then I went to another one in Toronto. This place was packed with Muslims smoking the hookah in Ramadan. Instead of making the wudu, standing in the masjid when we could stand in the masjid, which we can't now, these Muslims were smoking hookah in Ramadan. Now they may have fasted all day long, but now you're smoking hookah. But here's the question. It wasn't the first 20 days that we went there. We went there in the last 10 nights. And we witnessed, before Fajr, we witnessed the Muslims smoking hookah. This is the wrong path, brothers and sisters. Many Muslim youth, whether you know it or you don't, many Muslim kids, they're smoking hookah. Maybe you don't know. I've been to restaurants that have falafel and shawarma in it, and on the other side it has hookah. And I see Muslim brothers with beards and sisters with hijabs smoking hookah. Hookah is not permissible. Scholars wrote about this 1,000 years ago. Doing a little halal and haram at the same time. MashaAllah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Brothers, the path is very long. Sisters, the path is very long. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves. And right now, I'm trying to pace myself. Right now, I've been doing lectures almost every other day. I'm trying to read my little bit of Quran, establish my salat when I can, call my family members. I'm trying to pace myself because the last 10 days are coming. Wherever I'm at right now with my ibadah, my reading the Quran, my dhikr, whatever I'm at right now, I know I have to take it to another level, and then I know I have to take it to another level because the last 10 days are coming. It's time to get busy. Playtime is over. We have to purify ourselves, purify our soul, purify our heart, purify our tongue, purify our actions. Brothers and sisters, got a call from a brother the other day. He was telling me that his mom passed away. And that brought back memories for me that my father passed away. And he was very, very, very sad. Very, very sad. And I told him, I said, Akhi, your mom, she died with Islam. My father didn't. Your mother died with La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. My father, he did not. And I asked the brother, was she a good woman? Did she pray? He said, yes. That's why I pray, because I learned how to pray from her. I told the brother, I said, listen, Akhi, my parents, they never told me how to pray the salat. So you have to be grateful, brothers and sisters, for all the blessings that you have. Sometimes, and there's a brother who's watching right now, may Allah bless my brother. He also embraced Islam, he's on Facebook. My brother, he comes from a different background. He wasn't born in a Christian family, he wasn't born in a Muslim family. He was born in a Sikh family. Brothers, we realize that Islam has been given to you from the time of birth. We've had to fight for our Islam. I was kicked out of my house when I was young. So with that, brothers and sisters, Akhir da'wana, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. I've gotten the signal that the adhan is here now. So may Allah bless you all, brothers and sisters. May Allah help you. And inshallah, may Allah help you to maintain your Islam in tough times. Please make dua for me as I'll make dua for you. Wa akhir da'wana, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.